Is it really?
Yeah.
It is 9:01, we're a minute late. We'll blame Charlie. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to defend Commissioner Burrell on this one. It's not his fault. Our media wasn't here at time.
Oh.
That's...
Well, the roads are bad. It's kind of tough getting across. In fact, I just seen somebody fall up there on the main road, or main hallway earlier. Anyway, it is April 3rd. I really wish this would have fell on April 1st. I'm going to play jokes on Charlie. Welcome to the Wright County Board of Commissioners for the April 3rd meeting. Dispense with the readings, approved as written. Anybody have any changes on the county board minutes of March 27th?
Mr. Chair, with no changes, I'll make a motion we approve the minutes.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Burrell, second by Commissioner Hewson. Any other discussions, concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Review and approval of agenda. Does anybody have anything to add? I know we have one to take away. Our Dr. Quinn Strobel, medical examiner, will not be able to make it today.
Correct. So, Mr. Chair, with that modification, I'll make a motion to approve today's agenda.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Vakich, second by Commissioner Potter. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Consent agenda.
Mr. Chair, I would like to I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda with but I'd like to pull under B1 just for further consideration, that item, and also
B1.
B1, just the
Oh.
ERP meeting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's, and then item I.
Yep.
I'll make a motion we approve the consent agenda with those two removed. For
Commissioner Gibson, you had something?
Yes, I was going to actually remove A just for a point. But
Okay. So, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda with the removing of those three items for further consideration.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Burrell, second by Commissioner Houston to remove item A, B1, and I. Any other discussions?
Might as well go in order.
Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Commissioner Houston.
This is just a correction, and it's already been corrected, but if the public is looking through and sees the authorized board chair signature on the revocable license for the DAV vehicle parking, in our packet, it lists Charles Burrell as chairman, and it's been corrected for the current, but I just wanted to make that clarification.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Burrell, item B1.
Item B1, and did we talk about that date? Because actually the date is not so bad, but the time is a conflict for me. I don't know if it's a conflict for anybody else.
This is not, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Coordinator, but this is not for a group of the hall. This is my inviting myself into an ERP meeting.
Okay, no problem.
Correct. Those items listed were in case, we know there's going to be at least one commissioner there, but in case there would happen to be a quorum, we've kind of started this new process of authorizing attendance, so not required, but if you'd like to.
No problem. Okay, on to my next one.
Item I.
Mr. Chair, the Planning Commission has an item coming up on their agenda regarding a rezoning issue for the gun club in Delano, Minnesota. And we set a date and a time to do that, and they would also want to invite the county board because it is a rezoning and it's a rather contentious item. So, but the thing is, I know it's not a good date for some of the board members, and I did talk with our county attorney, and he said we could set a separate date that would work for all of us for the county board, or if someone wanted to go to this and 3 or 4 wanted to go to the other one, that would be okay too. So But we could set up a separate date to view the property as the county board, separate from the planning commission.
Well, we can also just view it independently too, can't we?
No.
Well, it would be, if we did that, because you would probably want someone from the gun club there to kind of show you around, and then you might, then you would probably want people that were opposed to it to want to show you, my house is right there, and, you know, whatever, too. So it might be better if we could come up with a date ourselves, I don't know.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
who of the board members could make it on the 11th?
I can't.
I can't.
I can't.
Oh, you can't, okay. Well,
And Mr. Chair, I think it's important that, because this is going to be, we have to make some decisions if an EAW will be necessary or not with this inspection.
Yeah.
So there's some big ramifications that we kind of want to be able to go out there and
Yeah.
see it for ourselves.
And then there is, the other thing, we want to do it sooner, maybe even sooner than the 11th, if we could all find a date to do that, because on the, let's see, I gotta remember what, the 19th, I don't know if that item will be considered or not yet.
You're putting us under the gun?
When is that coming before the board, that EAW or EAS thing or whatever?
I'm not sure.
It hasn't been
It's
set
been
yet.
set
Okay.
yet.
But,
Does anybody have the 12th open?
the 12th? I can't make that, no, anything after the 11th, I actually am.
You going on vacation again?
Yeah, but before that, see if you have anything before that.
Before the 12th?
Yeah, before the 11th, yeah.
Well, what do we got going in the afternoon of the 10th?
10th, I could do in the afternoon at 1 o'clock.
I have extension up in St. Cloud.
yeah, we have 911 and crime lab.
Okay.
When do you guys want to do Monday the 9th in the morning, before Health and Human Services?
You know,
I've got a public health meeting at 9.
I can't make it, but I'll plan to make it on the 11th, because I can be there.
Okay, but you can't make it anyway, Mark, on the 9th.
No.
And what about,
Well, I could do it on the 9th after.
I could do it after, too. I could do, 3 o'clock on the 9th.
After Health and Human Services.
Yeah.
that could
That would be Commissioner Potter?
I'll make it.
Okay.
so say 3 o'clock?
All right.
3
Does that give us enough time to get out of Health and Human Services and drive there? I'm just,
1:30, probably not. Better make it 3:30.
3:30?
3:30.
Okay.
Okay, 3:30 County Board, Delano.
3:30.
Stacy, does that work for you?
Okay. Mr. Chair, how do you want to do these motions, because we'll have to do 3 individual ones here, or?
Yes.
Okay. I'll make them, we'll start with this one, work our way backwards then. I'll make a motion that we authorize attendance for the county board members on the April 11th meeting, as well as a meeting on April 9th at 3:30 to view the site inspection at the Delano Sportsman Club in Franklin Township.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Commissioner Burrell, second by Commissioner Newsom. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous.
And then we should make, Stacy, we're going to want to make sure that we post that meeting then somehow so that it's legal to. Okay. And then, Mr. Chair, I removed that one item that I didn't need to, so I will make a motion to authorize attendance. Where was that again? I lost it. Authorize attendance for the ERP meeting on 4/6 at 2 o'clock.
Second that.
Motion by Commissioner Burrell, second by Commissioner Newsom for item
B1.
B1. Is there any other discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Mr. Chair's right on time.
And then we got one more.
Yep, we should do item A, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if there's an action needed on that. It's already been,
We'd like to authorize signature since it was pulled from the agenda.
Okay.
It has not had action to authorize.
I'll make a motion to authorize the board chair signature on the revocable license for the VA DAV vehicle parking.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Houston, second by Commissioner Burrell. They're running the meeting this morning.
I guess so. Their side's winning today.
Any other discussions?
I'm done now.
He got
Hearing
a
none.
bill of health the other day, that's why he's feeling good.
Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. We're a little early, no, we're not. 9:12. Mr. Virgil Hawkins.
Mr. Chair, did you want to recognize the medical examiner's report in case, or is she going to be coming?
She'll be coming at a different
Okay.
time.
All right, good.
Morning, Chairman Lawden and Board of Commissioners. I have 2 items for you this morning to consider. The first item is a request to award pavement preservation contract 1802 to Knife River Corporation. We opened bids on March 23rd, and a low bid, including alternate 1, was the amount of $4,674,944.95.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to award the pavement preservation project contract 1802 to Knife River Corporation in the amount of $4,674,944.95.
Second.
I'll-
Motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by
Make it a
Commissioner
comeback now.
There we go.
Potter. Is there any other discussion?
I would just say, I mean, that's great to see these numbers at 18% below.
Yeah, we're very happy with the bids came in very good.
What was alternate 1?
Alternate 1 was Clearwater Pleasant Park Trail paving.
Okay.
It was needed.
Yeah, it is right here.
All right. We have a motion again by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Potter. Any other discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Hey, thank you. The second item today is request to approve an application for an easement across state land for Highway 9 reconstruction around Waverly Lake. It's a little different process when we acquire right-of-way, when there's DNR property involved, and it's an application and actually a resolution that needs to be approved also.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the application for easement across the state line in CASA 9.
I'll second that.
Commissioner Potter made the motion, second by Commissioner Vetch. This is a resolution.
I have a question.
We have a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Virgil, so we're required to purchase that entire property, that's included in the PID, or how does that work, or?
No, this is just for an easement
Okay, so
along
it's
part
not-
of it. Just for what we need for highway
Okay,
purposes.
all right. I thought that, it seems a little different to me, so, all right, thank you for clarifying.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Potter?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Virgil, just for the public, you have some in this, the next page there, that some is temporary and some are permanent.
Correct.
Is that both within this same parcel?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to clarify, because they'll see both there and go, okay, what does that mean? Were they buying, like, that's where the confusion come in. Are you buying the whole thing or not?
Right. Yeah, when it's all enclosed.
No, the temporary easement, we need, just when we strip topsoil, we need a place to put it, and then we don't need that after that.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Resolution, Commissioner Burrell.
Aye.
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 Resolution carries unanimous.
Okay, thank you.
Is that it?
That's it.
I do have one, something I'd like you to look at. I've been getting a lot of complaints regarding County Road 35, where you put in those 2 turn lanes of that new addition just as you're coming out of St. Michael.
Okay.
There never were turn lanes there before. There was bypass and there's...
Ray, we restriped to provide a dedicated left turn lane.
Yeah,
Yep.
and people have been complaining about coming out of the curve heading eastbound on 35, that people are... Does that hurt with your shaking your head like that?
I've received the same complaint.
We have also.
All right, I just wanted to let you know.
And we are constructing a dedicated right turn lane this year
Okay,
to alleviate that concern, which we've conveyed to people that called.
okay. All right, that's good to hear. Yeah, I've been getting a lot of complaints about it.
We have to.
All right.
Thank you.
Good, thanks. All righty, Alan Wilczek, Facility Director. You have lots of good news for us, I understand.
It is good news.
Like-
Good morning, Mr. Chair and Board. I'm here to request the approval to award the bids for the Justice Center. Here today we have Contegrity Group and BKV Group. BKV, our architect on the project, Bruce Schwartzman and Anthony Enright. And then with Contegrity Group, we have Larry Filippi and Kevin Curry. And they're going to walk us through the items in your packet, which are the bid tabulations, a couple of alternates that we need to discuss selection of or not, and then also a comparison from bids to what the budget was, and they'll give some detail on how the bid process kind of went through, what kind of feedback they've gotten, and we've got some really good results, some aggressive bids, and we're under budget on this project. So with that, I'll turn it over to these guys, and they'll kind of walk you through that project, or through these sheets.
And just, Mr. Chair, a point of logistics, just a reminder, we do have the public hearing at 9:30, so we may have to suspend this, come back to it. So.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Like Alan said, we definitely have some great results. I will start off with the bid tab sheet. We have you help me all do. In total, we had 35 packages that we received bids on. We received 131 total bids in those packages. As you can see through the list, we've had some great competition in a lot of packages. There were a couple packages that I wanted to highlight because on category 13, coiling sectional doors, the low bidder, American Door Works, has requested their bid be withdrawn. They had a gross error within it. So our budget is reflective of the API garage door as the qualified low bidder. We get into category 24 and 25. There were some smaller bid packages that no bids were received. We're going to request that we can go out and work with Alan and get quotes on those two packages.
Essentially, just to note what those were, loading dock equipment, there's a dock lift, a piece of equipment in there, as well as, I believe it's pronounced magnetometer, the security device at the main entrance. They were kind of specialty packages that we didn't have bids submitted on those.
Combined value is about $50,000, $10,000 for the loading dock and $40,000 for the other item, the facility equipment. And then on the category 39, specialties, we didn't receive any bids on that, and we're going to request that we can authorize us to go back out for rebid on that package. There were a few combined bids, as you can see on the bottom. One of them was successful. That had to do with the combination of category 11 and 17. With that, I think we'll move to the budget sheets that
What was 39 for? What is specialties?
toilet and bath accessories, marker boards,
visual display, those were not included. It was listed but not included. Signage, we have cast aluminum letters on the front of the facility, and then all your access and accessibility signage in the building, restroom signage, handicap signage, etc. The toilet compartments, wall and door protection, corner guards, wall guards, toilet and bath accessories, fire extinguishers and cabinets, lockers. We have some fire department Knox boxes, wall-mounted TV brackets, and entry mats in the recess frames. So it's a catch-all.
Catch-all,
Wall-mounted TV brackets? Wouldn't we want to have the people providing the TVs to provide the brackets so that everything matches?
typically those I think are mostly universal though, as far as the brackets go. We want to make sure we're called out because we also got to make sure we got backing in those walls.
Okay.
So there's a kind of a marriage between the two.
Commissioner Potter?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. This, that 241,000, does that include the gold-plated toilets for the judges?
It can, if we're going out for rebid, so
Want
we
to make
could.
sure that the public's clear on what those are for.
I'll move into the two budgets you see there, and mainly what you're looking at here is on the left side is a culmination of the low qualified bids, base bid only. And on the right side is the base bid, which includes alternates 1, 2, and 4. One thing to highlight on that is an acceptance of the alternates. You have a change in low bid in regards to the earthwork utility package. As I mentioned on category 13, we were showing the second low bidder on that, 24 and 25. Once again, those are things that we'd like to go out and get quotes on. 39, we would like to look at getting going back out authorization for rebid. And then on the package 35, the safety and security, along with the existing geo cameras, we're going to work with the county's current provider, Normant Security and Russell Security, and develop that package as well.
Good.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Potter?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Category 1, earthwork utilities, we had quite a bit of talk about that with the walking trails at the facility, and that was the alternate bid. And I think, first off, the good news that the prices came in like they did. The second thing, the more you think and you talk with the employees and everything around here, I think we need to include that in this. And I know it changes who's the low bidder, but the two lower bidders were not that far off in the first place. But they putting the alternate A in there, or alternate 1, dramatically changes who's the low bidder. So I would like the board to go along with the alternate 1 with the bituminous trails on that particular bid pack.
Mr. Chair, I was made aware of something too, that for the trails, we did not have, it was not spec'd out as far as the grades or the elevations, so that some of the contractors, I mean, it's not, if that low bidder for the trail comes in and says, well, I didn't have these things, so I have to, do an add-on, that's not going to be very good. Then we'd be better off to go out for a rebid on that. Are you aware of that at all? I mean, it was not real, it was not very detailed, apparently.
I'm personally not aware of that. I don't know if...
There wasn't a survey, Commissioner, there wasn't a survey done to identify all the spots in the trails, you're right. While there's some notes that talk about the coordination on it, the exact elevation of all of it is not there.
Right.
Because there's some major differences.
Right.
In the alternates.
So the low bidder on that, once they're given the elevations and all the detail, would they be allowed to say, I have to do an add-on to that or whatever?
The way it was actually listed in the documents was for that to be designed by the contractor themselves. They were actually asked to verify that.
I guess where I'm, okay, yeah.
So even though that might be a possibility, Commissioner Burrell, Contegrity did qualify bids with them and asked them if they'd stand behind their number. So if a contractor comes back and says that they need additional information, we would obviously not be just authorizing them to charge more money for that.
Okay, but if they're doing the design build and it's not something that's acceptable to us, then what happens?
Then we would need to coordinate that as a group.
Okay, but you could, at that point, could you reject that bid then?
We could reject the work itself, and we could ask them to do a change order to reduce that amount out of their contract.
What if they want to add it on, though?
If they wanted to add it on, then we'd have to discuss that as a group. If they find some...
And then you could reject that bid?
Then we could reject that whole scope.
I just want to make sure that we're able to do that, because there were other contractors that I talked with that said they bid kind of worst-case scenario because they did not have the detail.
Correct, and that would be exactly what we would expect the contract to do, is bid the worst-case scenario based on the information that they have.
Okay, so now, if our low bidder, I just want to make sure one more time, if the low bidder does, when we come up with what we actually do want, they can do the design build and say, no, we need this, and then they're going to do add-on. At that point, you could reject it and
Correct.
say...
We could reject the entire scope of work and reduce that back out of the contract.
I just want to make sure of that.
Yep.
A reminder that each and every contractor was bidding off the exact same plans and specifications, you know, apples for apples. So, you know, for one argument for one would be the same argument for the next guy.
Yep.
No
No,
matter
I
what
mean,
order they had, but-
and the low bid wasn't like $6,000, something like that?
Yep.
Okay, so, and if they're willing to stick to that and it's acceptable with us, I have no problem with that either, so.
Larry, I'd like to verify, so you all did contact those various
Yeah.
contractors?
Every contractor, every low contractor on this, including a number of seconds, were called over the past 2 weeks. And any concerns, questions that were brought up or documented, we wrote down, but in the end, when the day is done, we're awarding contracts based on plans and specifications, so.
Okay, so when they do the design build though, and they have the trail coming and it goes up at a 45-degree angle, and we would say, no, we can't have that, that's gotta be sloped in, you gotta cut into there and put fill over here, then they say, well, then that's a change order.
There were some general notes put on the civil to prevent that, but we'll have to, I think we have to qualify, yes.
This is Tyler with Northern Lines Contracting.
Could-
We're low on the base bid.
Come on up here, please.
And
Yeah, maybe just introduce yourself.
Reintroduce yourself.
my name is Tyler with Northern Lines Contracting, so we're low on the base bid. And I just want to elaborate how a person looks at this. As a contractor looking at the grading plans, right, you're, with no contours, no design, at the end of the day, you have to make some sort of assumptions. Now, whether everybody made those assumptions or not, I mean, you look at the alternate prices, it's not like one guy is at 32,000, you got 32, which is where we're at, which is the highest, and then you got 2 at 32, you got 1 at 28, you got all the way down to 6,000. So there's definitely some, that the board needs to recognize that there's some variation on that. So what kind of assumption did all these contractors make? And so at the end of the day, there is some variation. How much dirt is going to get moved? There was no grading plan. There was no contours. There's nothing for us to base that judgment off of. But if somebody's going to hold us to the coals on that and say, well, yeah, you got to move all this dirt and you got to move 10,000 yards of dirt to make this work because nobody's going to want a bike path on a one-to-one slope, which if you look at the contours, that's what is shown. So the next guy going there, well, yeah, they're going to say, well, yeah, we just made that assumption, but that's not in writing. This is what the plans show. So at the end of the day, I just think that the board needs to understand that, you know, realistically, an engineer needs to look at this trail and say, hey, let's come up with a design that makes sense for what the project needs, whether that's an additional PR after it's awarded, and then looked at that and said, hey, all right, is this trail worth an extra $20,000 once the project's going on or not? But that's how we feel that, you know, the board needs to realize that.
And I guess my point is, Bruce, is that something that maybe we should have spec'd out better?
Well, it was an issue of not having all the contours of the entire property, all the grading information. And the civil did the best they could with the adding of that information, with a little bit of information. Given the information that's been discussed here, my recommendation to the board would be to award based on the low bid without the alternate and allow us to work through the nuances of that, what that trail is actually going to need to be. I agree with you, Commissioner. There could be, if you award based on the bid with the alternate added in, there could be some nuances that are not totally worked out, and we could be surprised.
So maybe kind of leave the alternate off for now, and if we have to even put that out for rebids, we could.
Exactly.
Okay.
I think that makes sense. Larry, are you comfortable with that? I want to make sure you
Because, well, and I understand, we don't want to put a whole bunch of engineering and drawing into this because it was an alternate. It may not have ever happened. Why invest, you know, $30,000 in design when, or whatever. Why invest $4,000 in design when it's not going to happen? You know?
Commissioner Houston?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, because actually, if you include that, then the lower bidder is US Site Works, correct? They're about $10,000 less.
Yeah, about 10,000.
So, yeah, if you're basing it on the lowest bidder with the alternate included, they would get the award.
And I think based on the conversation we've had today, there clearly are some nuances that are not defined. And I think to be fair to the contractors, to make sure we get the best value for the county, I think it makes sense to understand that this is something that wants to be pursued, but award based on it not being part of the contract and allow us to kind of work through it.
Mr. Chair.
I think that's good.
Chair.
Commissioner Potter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Bruce, what you're saying is I'd like to keep the trail in it just because I think it makes sense and brings value to the whole project, but in your scenarios, take the base bid and redo this with more detail on a rebid at some point in time, and that would alleviate some concerns of this contractor. I mean, we had, like say, we have very good qualified contractors here, because I know most of them, and the bids are all over the board. So that kind of tells you that there is some kind of issue there.
This gentleman's point was very valid. When you don't have something that's well-defined, it's based on low bid. You're going to put a bid in there, and the others aren't going to consider the worst-case scenario because they want to try to get the bid. So I think, given the nuances of this, I think it makes sense to understand that the goal is to pursue it, but to make sure it's nailed down so you have a cost that you qualified. And I think there's other things going on with the sites that are being talked about with master planning the entire site that could change things a little bit. So I think holding this off and figuring this out a little bit more does make sense.
Maybe an option would be not to award Category 1 at all at this time, bring it back in 2 weeks, and in fairness for both contractors, you know, get a written plan on what the assumptions were. There's 4 contractors who are, you know, on the low side, and there's 4 that are, I mean, quite a bit of difference. There's a day and a night. Not being the person who actually qualified them, I know Pete I could probably speak much more thoroughly on this topic. Maybe that's the right answer.
We're okay with Category 1 on the Justice Center part, just on the alternate.
Mr. Chair, I wouldn't want to award Category 1 otherwise without redoing that whole process, because if you reward Category 1 without the alternate, basically your prices for the alternate are going to go absorbently higher because they're bringing out equipment for a much smaller project than when you're tying it into one piece.
Commissioner, we still tie the project together, but I think what Larry brings up is a good point too. What he's saying is, let's be fair to the low contractors. Let's, rather than just saying we'll award it right now, let's go back and qualify the specifics of it to then bring that bid package back. I think that does make sense too.
Yeah.
The one thing to consider about that is a timing issue. From a project management standpoint, I want to get in the ground as soon as possible. So it's just a consideration. How long can we get this information? How long will it take? How long will it take to get it clarified? And then how long will it take to get the numbers? And what will the delay be to the project, if any? Can we turn it around fast enough so that we can get in the ground? It's just a consideration.
Okay, we have a public hearing at 9:30. We're already a few minutes late, so let's suspend this conversation and so that we can deal with our public hearing. So Coordinator Kelly, who's going to lead us in this capital improvement public hearing?
I can start you out on that, Mr. Chair. As you know, as part of the bonding process, we have to have an approval of our capital improvement plan related to this project, which I included the affidavit of publication within the board packet. This was published in our official newspaper of record, so that was included. So I did not receive any comments regarding this to my office, either written or verbal. I don't know if anyone is here to speak from the public regarding this capital improvement plan.
All right, so at this time we'll open the public hearing regarding the capital improvement bonds for the Justice Center. Is there anybody that has any questions, concerns? Anything they'd like to make a statement on? The second time, does anybody have anything they'd like to make a statement on, concerns? And a third time. Anybody have anything? All right, at that point, we will close the public hearing at 9:35 and bring it back up here. Commissioners, does anybody have anything that they would like to talk to regarding the bond capital improvement of the Justice Center?
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have not received anything negative on this from the public. They knew this was coming, and they're more comfortable with the process than they were a few years ago when we did the highway building, because that was something new that they weren't used to. And it just get over with, get it done, move forward. And with that, I would, if, is this an action item that you'd like to approve today or not? Move forward with this to approve going forward?
Yeah, it doesn't look like it's an action item.
Mr. Chair, we will need to approve it. The logistics are a little challenging since we are in the middle of bids. So we have done the public hearing. Perhaps it'd be good to work through the bids. Then we do have Bruce Kimmel here from Ellers. We could take action later in the meeting to approve the capital improvement plan and then authorize the issuance of bonds.
Okay. All right. So we'll discuss this a little bit later. And we'll go back to the awards for the Justice Center bids and proceed with contracts.
So we just had a brief talk, and I know this is kind of working through this one topic with all of you as far as the site work. Anthony and I were talking about this a little bit. If we go back to all four contractors, or to the apparently, or to two, and kind of work through this scenario, it might require rebidding it if there's much additional data that changes, correct?
No, you're talking specific to the alternate. And like I said, I would suggest that maybe we bring this back in a week. In the meantime, or 2 weeks, I should say, maybe interim, we schedule a meeting, visit with the civil engineer, and discuss what the intent of the documents are currently showing, and have a chance for both parties to provide their understanding of what this bike trail is.
Commissioner Burrell?
And Mr. Chair, thank you. And you're talking just rebidding on the alternate?
I'm just saying right now.
Because I'm thinking, I'm over here now, because if you're starting to rebid the dirt work, well, now.
I'm not saying rebid the dirt work package, because that would entail a broader. I'm saying give us a week or two here to visit on the details of what the gray area is within the bike trail, the bike path itself.
So what we would be doing is we'd be talking to the civil engineer as well as to bid contractors to get more qualified information and make sure, see where both of them are within that, and bring that back to the board.
Well, I don't think 1 week is going to cause any problems.
Not at this point, if we get.
Especially with looking at the weather out there.
Yeah. Okay, but if I just don't want it, I don't want this to start to delay the project.
No, exactly. The intent is not to go back out for rebids, but at least dial in what the bike trail scope is in both of their interpretations of how they bid this project. Visit with the civil engineer to make sure we end up with an end product that the county wants, and we're comfortable with. So
sounds good.
Yeah, because there's no change orders allowed.
Yeah.
Easiest way to eliminate them is try to address them now.
Okay.
I would like to tell the commissioners, though, this was an anomaly as far as bidding. We had a Aiken County Government Center bid, a simple, very simple government center expansion project bid a couple weeks prior to this. The average square foot cost of that project came in around $270 a square foot for that, just a simple government center, no courts. I think this one averaged out to about $230 a square foot. So you got, really, we couldn't hit conditions better for bidding. We just got really just some unbelievably good numbers. So I commend the county and commend the entire team, because this is going to be a great project at a very reasonable cost.
You create your own luck. You create your own luck on these things with timing.
Are we going to talk about the other alternates? Or?
Well, I would assume so. I know we're not done here yet.
Okay.
We've just been dealing with just one.
Just the one, okay.
Part of the thing.
The other two alternates had no effect on bidders, but it's the alternate number 2, which is the vegetative roof. And alternate number 4 was replace the parking lot lights at the northeast lot. One had a value of $36,500, and the other one was $9,750.
Also, it wasn't.
Mr. Chair, maybe for the public, maybe the architect could tell us what the vegetative roof is.
Well, I don't understand, because you've got alternates under the roofing too. So do they need to upgrade the roofing to be able to handle the
Some
The
contractors
landscaping?
interpreted the vegetative roof as being under the scope of the roofing contractor. Some contractors interpreted it as under the scope of the landscape contractor. So that was just different interpretations of which category that scope should be included in. I believe the one that is the low is actually part of the landscape contractor, correct?
Yep.
So the vegetative roof portion is the portion of the roof that is directly outside jury assembly that is clearly visible from inside jury assembly. So there's a wall of glass in jury assembly. The roof you would be looking out on either would be a vegetated roof or would just be rocks. So it was more of an aesthetic choice to give kind of a nice view from jury assembly where there's going to be up to 100 people for hours at a time. So it's more aesthetic. It wasn't necessarily done for any reason that affects building systems, but it also is a nice sustainable feature to add to the building.
Mr. Chair, I know when we started this project, I talked with Judge McPherson and we said, functional. We don't need all the extras. So I really don't need that option in there.
Mr. Chair, I'm with you, Commissioner Burrell, on, there's gonna be some ongoing continual maintenance costs on that.
Cost all
Right.
the time.
Yeah, that's gonna keep on giving, so, I'm out on that.
From
And,
an aesthetic, excuse me, Commissioner, from an aesthetic experience, basically, the rock does help to soften the
Oh, yeah.
fabric rather than looking at a black roof.
Sure.
So either way would not be a bad situation.
We can always set a couple planters out.
yeah, right, well, and plus they're gonna see outside anyway, so your eyes would be drawn elsewhere if you don't have, a vegetative roof. So you can look out to the,
So you're okay with dropping the vegetation? Okay.
Can we use pretty rock?
We will use as attractive a rock as we can find.
So, Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Potter?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So what I'm hearing from the board is that alternate 2 vegetative roof is out. We just decided to go without it. So we'll give Charlie a victory today so he can walk away happy.
That was Derek.
this is
Yep.
maybe just, I don't know what kind of a point, but, so rock, is that gonna get leaves caught in it, or you're gonna use little ones that leaves and things won't get?
Yeah, it's standard. It's a ballast.
Okay.
So it's a ballast that's made for going on roofs.
Okay,
And really, when you look at the height of where that is, not a lot of trees and everything.
Right.
Not that high, so it's
right, yeah,
standard.
yeah, okay.
We have alternate number 4, replace the parking lot lights at the northeast lot.
Mr. Chair, I'm in favor of doing that just because let's get it over with
Safety.
while we're here.
And the numbers came in so.
Oh, yeah, it's low, and, I mean, that's a safety
Because
issue
while
too.
you're there,
Yeah.
let's just get that done too.
And so, Commissioners, what that is, of course, the existing lights in the law enforcement centers, just to get them all blended together.
Correct.
Well, not only that, but there's a payback on those
yeah.
for going to LEDs.
Right,
Yeah.
definitely.
Okay, so alternate 1 and alternate 4. I do have one question regarding these access doors and frames for unit price number 1 and unit price number 2. I see some additional pricing off to the side, which is hardly anything. I'm just kind of curious on what those
So
were.
the way we handled those is just to make sure that there's not during construction, the contractor doesn't come back and say, we need an access door over here, but you didn't show one. Or we needed an access door for this valve, but that wasn't coordinated. We have an actual price for any additional access doors that are needed. We have a specification for a certain amount of each size of access door, which I think will be more than adequate to cover what we need during construction. But in the event that we do need an additional one, we already have a price from the contractor, so that we don't come back with, it's going to cost us $1,000 to put that access door in there.
It's usually mechanically related, that we need access to a control valve or
But,
an actuator or
but
something
the
like
bottom
that.
line is, we don't need to have it come in with an alternate bid. And instead of costing $400 for a door, it costs $1,400,
Right. It gives us a price rated bid date so that we aren't
That's a
fighting
good,
about that during
that's a good idea.
Okay, so the board wants to hold off on category 1 and give the engineers and other people a chance to discuss category 1?
Is it the whole category or just the alternate bid?
Category 1, the whole category. So what about the rest?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Potter?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, the rest of them are good to go with. I just have a concern with the item number 1. I mean, I'm hoping that within 2 weeks you can get the scope narrowed down, because these bids are all over the board. I mean, and if the scope narrows down quite a bit and they kind of know what's expected of them, are we going to, I'd hate to just take it out completely now and then try to do it later, because Commissioner Vetchmel, all of a sudden the mobilization, everything's going to go nuts on this thing. So are you comfortable with 2 weeks getting this back and?
Yeah, definitely.
Bringing us some?
We're basically going to be doing is addressing the 2 bids received, what their alternates included with input from civil engineer, and be able to say, come back to you and at least say, here's what they had in there. At least explain the difference between the 12,000 and the 30,000.
Commissioner Vetch?
Somebody from the audience said they could like to get his input, since he's been giving us a lot of information on that one. To entertain his question, but that's at your discretion, Mr. Chair.
Nick, go ahead.
In my defense,
Okay, come on up, Mike.
I think if you're just qualifying the bids, you already know what the numbers are. So it's easy for people to say they have certain things than what they don't. So I don't think that the qualification of saying, well, one contractor's got this versus one contractor's got that, that's not really, at the end of the day, the documents don't show what needs to be done. If that's really what they want, then put it back out to bid and let us competitively bid that to what you want. And then if you decide that's what you want to add into there, then let it add into there. But by qualifying it, I don't think is I mean, at the end of the day, you guys have already qualified the bids. You've already called us, you've called the other people. You can see that there's discrepancies based on the numbers.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things in play. First off, we do want to be fair to the contractors, and we want to be fair to the county as well. What we're hoping to do is add some clarification to what the intent of the civil was, and asking the contractors. And the contracts for the work would be amended to qualify that information. If somebody's willing to accept it, and they've got risk in there, then they're willing to accept it. If they're not, they're going to drop it. I think we have to do our due diligence to qualify it and go from there. And to go out and rebid the project, in my opinion, is not going to help the schedule issue. That's going to actually create some
You're not
problems,
rebidding the full project, you're rebidding the trail portion of it.
But it's the earthwork, which is the first thing that needs to get done on the project. So I appreciate your information. It's totally up to the county board, but I think we need to proceed in some direction at this point in time. Or the direction might be in 2 weeks. You know what? Award based on the low, and we'll negotiate the trail later. But that needs to be done.
Mr. Chair, I think we already have, for the dirt work, I don't want to mess with that. I want the building to, I don't want that delayed in a day, and I said, if we wait 2 weeks, now we are April 17th, and, I mean, we could be doing some things. But the clarification is just for the trail, as far as I can see. And if the low bidder on there looks at it after we gave some further guidance and said, yeah, I can do it for that, then he's got her or him, whatever, has the trail part of it. But I think we're good on the building itself, the dirt work there.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
So we're arguing to whether on the alternate one for the bituminous trail, whether we want to qualify those bids or we want to rebid those. And you're suggesting that we just qualify those bids to make sure that they're on a level playing field. And the discussion is whether it should be rebid entirely because it was so ambiguous and vague with the information that they were given to bid it.
The alternate was.
The alternate was given so ambiguous and so vague that the numbers are so, I mean, they're ridiculous. We have one as low as $8,000 and.
6,000.
Or is it 6,000? I'm sorry. Or $6,000. I mean, to upwards of 33,000. I mean, it's.
But, and I'm okay, if we rebid the trail, that's not gonna, I'm okay with that. That's because that trail can get done anytime in the next year,
Typically, you would not just rebid the trail in itself. The intent was that it's the same contractor who's doing the main project would be contracted to do the trail as well, so.
But then who do you decide who gets the award then?
If you went with the lowest bidder, it would not be the one that we currently have.
So one thing to consider about the documents is that it was written as a performance specification, design build. So again, the documents say, Mr. Contractor, take the information you have, use your expertise, and make this work. So the approach to how they do that and the cost to how they do that is up to the contractor. So that language puts the onus on them to make that bike trail work through the expectations. And so that's the language that you're going to clarify, is just say, hey, this says design build, do this. Are you comfortable with what you put in your bid?
So we as a board basically put this bid out there that we have no expectation whatsoever. This trail could be basically, yeah, it could be like a whoop section on a motocross track.
Yeah. Now, there was some information provided on the civil to qualify it, so there's some general guidelines in there.
But when we bid this, Bruce, we bid the main job, that's an alternate. The main bid is set. We don't combine these two together.
Yes, you do.
You do?
Yeah.
If you choose the alternate.
Yeah, when you accept the alternate, you take the base bid and you will add to it the alternate price to make the contract amount.
Okay, so that the board is also aware, we're talking about a $10,000 difference on the earthwork part of it. On the blacktopping part of it, we're talking an additional $65,000. So if we decide to go with this,
65.
next line down,
Yeah.
Oh,
so that's the blacktopping part of it.
Yeah.
So if we decide to go with it, we're not talking a smaller amount, we're talking a fair chunk, almost,
It may just break your...
$90,000. So it's not just
I'm not
that additional amount.
The 87,158.
This is the earthwork?
Yep.
This is the blacktopping?
Here, so
different company.
I guess I'm gonna look for you guys here because I'm struggling because I have a hard time awarding category 1 without, because it makes a difference on who awards the bid based on this discrepancies, and I feel like, okay, when you get something that ambiguous to bid on it, then they basically all should have there should have been no alternate then at that point, and they just put it all into your base price, and by the way, you need to put a trail.
Commissioner, without the civil engineer here, I agree with your construction manager. We should qualify it, we should go back and make sure that they're bidding on something that's gonna be solid, that they're taking responsibility, as Kevin said, to finalize this and make sure it's a workable situation. We'll bring that back to the board after we've had a chance. I think that would be the prudent way to go.
Like I said, there'd be no change orders.
It's to minimize that potential additional change.
All right, so again, what does the board like to do? Does everybody want to keep category 1 out and allow everything else to proceed?
Mr. Chair, we're getting advice to proceed on all and delay category 1 for 2 weeks to clarify these bids, and I think that we hired these people to help us get a good project, and it would be prudent on our part to just do that. I mean, not that I'm for or against one contractor or another. They're all good contractors. I mean, they've all done this before. And I would make a motion to approve the bids and withhold the category 1.
And it would have to be 2 as well, or at least the alternate portion of category 2.
Category 2 as well for.
Well, at least the alternate portion of category 2 doesn't change the bidder, but.
Mr. Chair, one quick question, just for clarification.
Yes.
So you are going to qualify with U.S. Site Works that their bid?
Both individuals, my intent would be to go back, talk to BKV, get their civil engineer involved in going through the intent of the documents as issued, bring that information back for you to make an informed decision on that item, with input from your civil engineer.
Okay, again, so we're going to postpone the awarding of bids for category 1, but for the rest of the categories?
Category 1 and 2.
1 and the alternate.
At least the alternate on category 2.
Yeah, the pricing doesn't make a difference there. I'd be curious to find out how the blacktopping people figured if it was difficult to, how were they bidding it? the blacktopping people if the,
That wouldn't be involved in the grading.
no. So we still have how many?
Theirs wouldn't vary. So just that they know how many square feet or square yards of pavement they have.
Okay, so that
Wouldn't change that.
So that amount was told then, okay.
So would that need to be removed then, the category?
Well, if we're
I
not gonna
think
do-
you're not making a decision whether or not to approve alternate 2 or alternate 1 at this time, so.
Okay.
We can approve the base bid, and we can add, we got 45 days from date of bids to accept that yet, so, just, it's timing-wise, it's not gonna make a difference on 2 weeks.
Okay. So clear as mud?
Clear as the crow.
All right.
I don't think anybody out there knows what we just did.
So, again, I will entertain a motion to hold off on category 1, accept the bids for category 2 without the alternates, and all the rest of the categories, not alternate 2, but accepting alternate 4.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion in the such, or if you want me to illustrate it out again, I can do that for you. I just want to make sure that we're clear that we are accepting bids excluding category 1, and we are excluding category alternate 1 for category 2, and accepting the bids in all of the other areas, including alternate, not including alternate 2, but including alternate 4.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Commissioner Batch and a second by Commissioner Houston. Coordinator Kelly, do you have any other concerns regarding this?
Not at this time.
Ellen? Does that work well?
Yeah, I think that works fine. The motion sounded fine and accepts what we need to.
Rebid.
We'd also look for approval to rebid the other items, the specialties and the pieces that he highlighted early.
So moved.
Do I add that into your bid?
That's my.
Oh, yeah, it is, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Or motion? Okay.
Alright.
All right, so again, we have a motion by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Houston. Is there any other discussions? This is just a regular approval, not a resolution?
No resolution.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see you
It
in
was a
2
lot of
weeks.
work, you guys.
Right. Mr. Bruce Kimmel, Senior Municipal Advisor, Ellers. You're going to come up here and get us all straightened out regarding the bonding, right?
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. I'm Bruce Kimmel with Ellers, and yeah, I think that's the operative phrase, getting straightened out. There's a lot of numbers in front of you. There's more numbers that I'm prepared to discuss. So just to set the stage, you had a public hearing on a CIP. This is what we call a bond CIP. It's not your regular CIP. Just, I know you all know this, but for the benefit of the public, Wright County has a much more extensive CIP that lays out all sorts of capital expenditures that are anticipated. This CIP that you just held the public hearing on at 9:30 is really targeted specifically to the Justice Center and the issuance of bonds for the Justice Center. You published notice of this hearing back on March 16th, and in order to make sure that we had more than enough capacity to handle whatever bids you might have received, county staff recommended that we go with a maximum bonding amount of $54 million at that time. As we all know, we're going to be significantly less than that, but that is the amount that is contemplated in the CIP and is sort of the maximum authorization. It's not compelling you or requiring you to come anywhere close to that $54 million. I should also mention before I move on to the pre-sale report, just to make sure that this is in the record and is open to the public for their understanding. As you all know, there is a 30-day reverse referendum window with the CIP proceedings. That's a very important detail that's specified in state law. That 30-day window starts today, assuming that you actually approve the CIP, and then it would expire on May 3rd, of course, 30 days hence. It sounds like this has been well discussed, and we certainly don't anticipate any kind of opposition, but it's really important, and Bond Council also feels it's important for that to be said. It was part of the public hearing notice, the 30-day window, and it's in the plan itself, but just to make triple sure that people are aware, that is something that is available to the citizens. So then, if there aren't any questions about the bond CIP, and again, this is just a document, not just, but it's a document that really meets the requirements of state law for this type of bond, I would move on to the pre-sale report then. The pre-sale report that you had in your packet was for a bond amount of $51,410,000. That was sized to fund $51 million of Justice Center project costs. Okay, so we had a $54 million maximum in the CIP, and then the pre-sale report was sized to fund $51 million of project costs. Again, we know that thanks to the bids that you've received and that you have partially accepted today and will finish accepting next week, that you'll be under that. That's a great problem to have. But I did want to just go through some of the details as to this pre-sale report, knowing that when we actually get to the resolution, which adopts the CIP and authorizes us to work with your team here to move forward on an actual bond issue, that you'll probably be directing us for a different dollar amount. And please stop me along the way if you have any questions. What this document really just tries to do is lay out the key details, terms and conditions of the proposed bond issue, and it gives you an opportunity to ask any questions that you have about the structure, about any of the other parameters before we go out to the market, right? Because what we don't want to do is come back here on May 8th and have any one of you say, gee, we didn't realize that such and such was going to be part of this bond issue. So it's really an opportunity to make sure that we all have our ducks in a row and are on the same page as to the details of the bond issue. Let me hit some of the, yes, go ahead, please.
If we do this bond for 51.4, and we have money left over, are we allowed to use that for remodeling of this facility or something?
Great question, Mr. Chair. No. And the answer is no, because that was not contemplated in the bond CIP that you just had the public hearing on. If you wanted to go with a higher bond amount for something other than the Justice Center, we would need to redo that public process. Not the end of the world. It's certainly an option, but it would delay the bond issuance timeline.
Mr. Chair.
So what we're anticipating here, if I can just clarify, is that I'm reading through these terms and conditions, but I expect that if you do want to authorize us to move forward, you would give us direction on a smaller bonding amount, and I'll get to that part next.
Okay. Good. Did you have something?
Mr. Chair, thank you. Bruce, so if it comes in less expensive, like the chairs, what are eligible expenses that can be, this money can be spent on?
Just the Justice Center project.
Just Justice Center?
Correct.
Issues.
For this issue. That doesn't preclude you from selling another issue later this year or in 19, as you know. We've had many discussions about a potential government center project, and depending on where you go with that, that might come into play. I also know that you've had some discussions about Trailblazer and about a law enforcement training center, and you have lots of things in play, and we can come to a discussion of any of those points if you'd like.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
Can we use these bonds to pay down debt service on other bonds? The remainder of that bond, if say we have $2 million, can we use that to pay off a bond, say a different bond that's being called or close to being called? Can we use it for that?
That is an excellent question. I'm not your bond attorney, right? So I don't give you the legal blessing on everything, but I would say most likely no. They would say that if it's not specific to the Justice Center. Now, what I would say in that case, Commissioner Vetch, is to the extent that, I don't think this is the case, but had you been planning on using any county cash for the Justice Center project, I might suggest that you leave the bond amount a little bit higher, and then that you could use some cash to redeem some existing debt. We've already done some scenarios looking at paying off some of your existing bonds in the next 2 to 4 years, I think, and I can go into that. Also, you had expressed some interest, Commissioner Vetch, in trying to keep your maximum debt service aggregate, cumulative deficit debt service to a certain level, and we laid out a 4-point plan for getting to that, and we can go into that in this discussion as well.
That might be
So
good.
you have lots of options, lots of ways that you can slice and dice this using cash and using debt. But I would say at this point, given the CIP that was the public hearing subject matter, you really need to keep this bond issue specifically to the Justice Center.
Commissioner Burrell?
So Bruce, if the building's gonna cost 48 million, let's say, and we're bonding for 51, no?
No, that's, I know it's confusing because we put this in your packets essentially before
So
we had
We
the
don't want to do
bids,
the
and,
numbers.
and
So
so.
we would be putting a bond out for 48.
Less.
48.
Right.
Or less than 48.
For example, I ran some numbers late last week, looking at funding 47 million of costs. So this pre-sale report funds 51 million. After talking with Lee and Bob, we said, well, let's, at least for the purpose of discussion today, give you a sense of what a 47 million funding would look like.
Yeah.
So you can really go anywhere
Because
you
otherwise,
want.
I said, if we're doing 51
No.
and we,
No.
No,
and
we
the
would
building's
definitely-
58 48 and we can't use it for anything
Right.
else, I mean,
That's
come on.
crazy, right.
Right, no.
Okay.
No, you would be.
I was just gonna say something doesn't make
You'd be
Borrow
sitting
it and
on,
pay it back.
you'd be sitting on, $4 million and using that to pay debt service on these bonds in the future, and that would be silly.
Yep.
So,
Okay, I'm done.
all right. So just going into a few details here then, Commissioners, on this bond issue. I won't go through the purposes and authority. That's pretty clear. You know that it counts against your debt authority, and you have plenty of capacity after this bond issue. We are looking at a 20-year term. I think that was discussed quite a bit, 20, 25 years, and I think it was the understanding of this board that in terms of laying a foundation on which you would potentially build additional pieces of debt for the government center or other purposes, that you're comfortable looking at a 20-year term that would really be tied to fiscal 2020 through 2039, okay? In that you'd be able to prepay these bonds at any point after December of 2027, so about roughly 9 years from now. You won't be bank qualified. That's not a bad thing. It just means you're issuing more than $10 million in this fiscal year, and you won't pay any penalties. You just won't get an additional little spiff that if you were issuing under $10 million in a given year. As you know, you have an excellent credit rating from Standard & Poor's at AA+. We would anticipate affirmation of your existing credit rating. You're just not quite large enough to hit that AAA level at this point in our estimation, but you're doing everything right that you can control, and we don't see any problems getting affirmation of the AA+ based on past conversations that we've had with S&P. We do recommend a competitive sale approach given this size of bond issue and given the lack of supply in the market. We think, frankly, that there should be a feeding frenzy for these bonds in early May. That's a great thing. We don't know where overall rates will go. Things are pretty volatile right now in the world with potential trade wars and other things going on. But in general, when there's volatility and when there's anxiety, people gravitate towards safe bets like muni bonds, and that should benefit Wright County and the taxpayers of Wright County as well. A few other points. We do anticipate, just so you're aware of this, with whatever bond issue we go out with in terms of size, we do anticipate getting bids that would be for over that bond amount. So if you go out for 47 million, we anticipate that the bids might be for 48 or 49 million. That's called a premium bid, and we would look to work with your team to make sure that we know exactly what we're bonding for in terms of proceeds, and then use that premium to reduce the bond amount, right? So you actually might end up approving a bond in May for 45 or 46 million, even though it's for, let's say, 47 million of funding. So just to give you a foreshadow, that might look a little confusing, but we want to give the bidders the option of bidding however they want in terms of getting the best options for their investors, and that leads to overall best interest rates for the county, and that might include a premium bid structure. You don't have any other refunding opportunities right at this point. Again, we do anticipate the county paying off some existing debt in the future. We can talk about that as well. And And then the rest is pretty much standard procedural language about continuing disclosure and arbitrage your responsibilities in those areas. Just reiterating this debt issuance schedule, we're here today for the pre-sale review and to get your direction on how to move forward. We would look to distribute the official statement to the market mid-month here in April, have the rating agency discussion sometime the week of the 23rd of April. Take bids, we don't have this on the table, but we note that we would take bids the afternoon of Monday the 7th of May, come to you the morning of May 8th for award, and then look to close sometime in early June. We have some flexibility on when that happens.
Bruce, regarding these, do we still have to wait 30 days and allow a reverse referendum again?
Yes, Chair Delighted, great point. That's why this timing works out really well. That 30-day period will expire on May 3rd, assuming you don't have a valid petition in hand, to require a referendum. You would be in the clear then to sell the bonds on May 7th and award on the 8th.
Regarding on your debt service schedule,
yes,
you've got bond year dollars and then average life. What do you mean by an average life of 12.926 years?
Right, great question. So what this is just a calculation of is looking at the principal and when it matures over the 20-year term. It's basically the point at which 50% of the principal has been matured, and that's in about 13 years. So it's a measure that we use to basically see, depending on how the principal is structured, is it front-loaded, is it ascending in terms of principal with a level debt service structure, or is it back-loaded? It just gives a sense that basically you reach the 50% point in about 13 years.
So it's a backloaded a little bit then.
But it's because of the level debt structure. Like with paying on a mortgage, your principal increases over time, right? And so even if you have a 30-year mortgage, your average life isn't going to be 15 years. It's going to be closer to 20 years because of how level debt service works. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
I would note, you can see the interest rates that we've assumed. We have tried to stay pretty close to current market rates. Again, we're not seeing a whole lot of upward pressure at this point, but of course, on the actual sale date, we might be a little bit higher or a little bit lower than what we've shown here. We haven't, just to make that more clear, we haven't included the kind of cushion that we sometimes show. So, you might see rates a little bit higher than this, but we expect very robust bidding on this bond issue. So then on this debt schedule, Commissioners, you can see that if you go to the projected debt service page, we have a first year, the year 2019, that is interest only with projected debt service of about $2.25 million. But then you can see that for the 20 years thereafter, the debt service averages about $3.5 million, and that's consistent with the projections that we've had before. So why don't I stop there, and then we can discuss lower bonding amounts and any of the other considerations that you'd like to discuss. Okay. Well,
Mr. Potter?
Mr. Chair, Bruce, in your professional opinion, and our advisor on these, the 51,410 is the number you are comfortable with us going with without concern.
Oh, absolutely. You have ample both statutory capacity as well as financial true capacity to handle that. And, we've been assuming a $51 million funding requirement for several months now. That said, you now have bids that are indicating a bond amount significantly lower than that would be appropriate, which then just gives you, if you will, some additional capacity to consider other projects, right? And those are all, of course, separate discussions, but it frees up your ability and your capacity to think about the government center project or Trailblazer or law enforcement training or whatever the case might be, or not doing any of those things and just having a lower debt profile. But I would certainly recommend, yes, we were very comfortable with 51 million, but if it makes sense now to reduce this bond amount, by all means, that's the way you should go.
Definitely, because the other projects are other projects.
You can't use it for
we can't use it for them, so, I mean.
Right.
we need to,
Like 47 would be a nice.
right, yeah.
So, Mr. Chair, if I can just give you some context for that, we did run, using all the same parameters as in the pre-sale report, we ran a scenario to fund $47 million of project costs. And again, it doesn't need to be a round number. You can get very, very specific in terms of what you want us to size the bonds for. But in that situation, we would be looking at an estimated par amount of $47,385,000. So the add-on, the cost of issuance is a little bit lower, right? About, I guess, $25,000 lower than on the $51 million bond issue. And using the same, again, interest rate assumptions and so on, the debt service in this case is estimated at about $3.25 million. So if you compare what we had in the pre-sale report to 3.25 and change, you're about $275,000 per year lower for that 20-year amortization term. We're still assuming the first year is interest only, right? But then you're dropping your annual debt service by an average of $275 for the next 20 years. That's a pretty big savings.
I mean, I would, Mr. Chair, I would kind of say being somewhere between that 47 and 47.5 million would be just to give us a little bit of buffer room, just because we only have a budget for FF&E and technology. We don't have real hard prices on that side of it. It gives us a little bit of leeway, and we're not being frivolous to have a ton of extra money left at that point either.
Perhaps 47.5 is a safer number.
Is there anything else you need to add, Bruce?
No, sir, just looking for your direction on what project funding amount to solve for. And if I could, Mr. Chair, what I would propose us doing then, if you flip ahead to the resolution that was part of the pre-sale report, or maybe immediately after it in your packet, and I'll let your staff and your county attorney give specific guidance as they see fit. But what you could do in this situation in order to acknowledge the CIP, the capital improvement plan, but then also to get down to the brass tacks of what you want us to move forward on, you could say, now therefore be it resolved that the board hereby A, approves the plan, B, so strike and, B, authorizes the issuance of bonds in an amount not to exceed $54 million. And I would recommend keeping that because that's part of the CIP. But then you could say, and C, directs staff and Ellers, or however you want to word that, to size a preliminary bond issue to fund, $47.5 million of project costs, or however you see fit to word that. Sorry, I didn't have anything spelled out, but I think if you have an A, B, C approach, it would be clear that you're authorizing the plan, but that you expect us to move forward with a smaller amount.
Okay. Any other questions?
So we just need a motion to basically to authorize the issuance of bonds in the amount not to exceed $54 million, with the official to solicit proposals for the bonds on behalf of the county on a competitive sale basis. The board shall meet on the 9 a.m. on May 8th, 2018, with the intent of holding bonds in the amount of $47.5 million is the intended amount, but not to exceed $54 million.
Well, I guess what I'm wanting to get clarity on from you all is if you are anticipating a total bond amount of $47.5 or project funding of $47.5, because you'll have about $400,000 of issuance allowance, cost of issuance allowance. We don't know how much of that the underwriters will take, but there's a difference between what you want the bond amount to be or what you want the project funding to Bob's
Project
bank
funding
account
in the amount of 47.5 and bond issuance in excess of the of the $47.5 million.
Yeah. And please also know that you can still, between now and May 7th, give us further direction. Let's say a lot of these details get worked out and you really only think you need about 47.2. On the date of sale, we can revise the bond amount to target that specific amount, okay? So you're not locking yourself into 47.5 if things work out such that you really do want a lower amount.
So did you make that
That
resolution?
is a motion.
Okay, then you did forget to say that you approved the plan. I didn't hear that part of it.
Approve the CI capital improvement bond plan in addition to the issuance of bond sales.
And again, for 47.5?
For 47.5 and not to exceed 54 million.
Okay.
Second.
So I have a motion by Commissioner Batch, a second by Commissioner Potter. Move the resolution forward. Is there any other discussions? And just to clarify, this is just strictly for the capital improvement from the public hearing that we had and the issuance of bonds.
And I just want to make sure it was noted that the 47.5 was for the project cost and issuance would be in addition to the 47.5.
Right, so we would be going out to the market with a bond issue of about $47.9 million, give or take. You'll see the official statement with that amount, but then in the official statement, you'll see that the deposit to the project fund is 47.5.
Okay, and we still have some flexibility too.
Yes, absolutely. Up until the date of sale, even after we receive the winning bid, we can say, hey, you retain the right to resize with the winning bidder, and so we can dial it right in.
Okay, good. All right. Any other discussions? All right, resolution. Commissioner Burrell.
Aye.
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 Aye. Resolution carries unanimous.
Thank you.
That was painless.
It was. Well, and congratulations on the great bids. It's very good news.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Thank you.
Assuming they didn't pad the original numbers. All righty. Gotta get my little dig in there, other Bruce. Dear Bruce. Committee minutes, personnel, Commissioner Hewsome.
Thank you. The Personnel Employee Relations Committee met on March 28th. Members present, Hewsome, Delyden, Sean Johnson. Others present, Pollock, Shauna Altman, Dan Anselman, and Lee Kelly. And the first item for discussion was to hire a technical applications specialist above the 12% of minimum pay range. And Business Manager Athman reports that they had an interested candidate in the vacant technical application specialist TAS position in the Sheriff's Office. The recommended candidate has previous work experience with Zerker, crime mapping, the GIS systems, and also has previous work experience in information technology with some decoding and software development. And this is the third recruitment for this position, and they've kind of struggled to find candidates. So Delyden asked about the IT background, and Anselman said the candidate is currently employed by a consulting firm in St. Cloud, looking for future job stability and current travel schedule, and reduces current travel schedule. And we are asked what the requested salary is, and they would like to offer this candidate $23 per hour. And this candidate has 5 years' experience with the current firm, and also added that the job offer will not create issues in terms of leapfrogging with existing staff. The current starting wage for technical application specialist is $18.52. And there's also another vacancy coming up, or is existing, in technical application specialist. And Athman said that they may potentially fill that vacancy internally. So they've been struggling to find good candidates from outside. So we have had a little more discussion on that, and we recommended approving the hiring of the technical application specialist at $23 per hour. The second one, hire of IT strategy and portfolio manager above 12%. Lee Kelly presented the IT director, Adam Tagaro's proposal, and he said that this is a second round of interviews for 2 finalists for this position, and one of the candidates that stood out because he has 25 years of experience in the IT field, and he's worked as a manager, a strategy planner, and currently working with a consultant firm, and they felt this candidate has a firm grasp of what this job entails, and he also has project management certification. The starting salary for this position is $69,900 per year, and the selected candidate is $86,000 per year.
He's requesting.
Oh, sorry, requesting, yep. And the top of the range is 97, so it's in the upper half. And we have 2 IT managers that one is making more and one is making less. The selected candidate would bring a lot of experience and job qualifications to the county, and he believes that this wage would be an acceptable offer. And the commissioners decided that we're comfortable offering the selected candidate $86,000 per year, and that's the recommendation. Approval of hiring the IT strategy and portfolio manager at $86,000 per year. With that, Mr. Chair, I will make a motion approving the minutes and the recommendations.
I have a motion by Commissioner Houston. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Chair, can we have some discussion?
Sure.
I want to say, I'm still struggling. I've had people reach out to me on this, and we are now wanting to compete with the private sector in wages, which I get to a certain degree, but we don't, our benefits here at the county are way better, and we're not qualifying that. We're just qualifying wage. So they're getting the best of both worlds. They're getting the exuberant day one vacation time that the county has. They're getting the benefit packages, which is way better from health and such than the private sector offers. And now we have to match dollar for dollar with them in the wage. I tell you, I mean, I feel like there's just not enough negotiations on this. I mean, are they really understanding that they're putting dollar for dollar? I mean, I just don't. I'm having a hard time with this because it's basically every month we have 2 or 3 positions.
And I appreciate that, Commissioner Vetch. And a lot of times it's not. They're taking a cut to come to the county because there are the benefits and that kind of thing. And in the case of this one candidate, he recognized the security of that, and certainly that's part of it. It's not just the wage that they're getting. It's all the other, the time off and that kind of thing. But a lot of companies have pretty good benefit packages too. So it's difficult to it's sort of a case by case really scenario. But yeah, as I mentioned the last time we had this discussion, it's tough, and we need to sit down, I think, and as a whole board and have this discussion.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Burrell.
I just want to commend Commissioner Vetch. He's starting to think more like me all the time. So, but I was going to mention the same thing. It's just, and I don't want to question the personnel committee because I know you guys work hard at this, but I don't have the privilege of the access to the second, third, and fourth candidate down, and would they work for $20,000 less? And are they a good person that could train into this thing real quick and whatever? I think I'd almost put the message out there. I mean, you guys, like I said, I'm not going to vote against this because I think you guys, you work hard at this, but I just want to put my input going forward is to look at somebody that maybe we could groom into the job, that Adam could train a little bit and get a whole lot less money, because I think we're setting this precedent that I don't like. I wouldn't do it in my company. I wouldn't be hiring unless I really, really needed that expertise and somebody matched it up perfectly, because this guy's gonna need training too, even though not as much.
Well, and that's the thing, you know, I agree with both of you. I don't like keep doing what we've been doing. But regarding technology, we are kind of in a pickle.
We are.
And I think there'll come a point where we can be a little more, but this gentleman, or this person, I think it's a gentleman, but I can't remember, but this person does bring something to the county that nobody else has right now. So actually, I think it might be more beneficial to the county to be willing to get this person in here to help us. Regarding the TAS position at the sheriff's office, they've been posting and posting and posting, and they're having problems.
They can't.
In getting a candidate to apply for it. So it's we're kind of between a rock and a hard place.
I agree.
I mean, if you're hiring someone with 25 years of experience and you've got a range of what we pay the minimum and the maximum in this range, we're not bringing this person in at the top of the range. We're not bringing them in at the maximum. And
the maximum is still the maximum.
Right, the maximum is still the maximum. So you're right. I mean, it's
Mr. Chair, the other side.
We have pretty serious discussions at our personnel committee meeting.
And, the other side is that, there's a leapfrogging issue on this other position that makes me have some concerns.
Well, yeah, yes and no. I mean, I do have some issues with leapfrogging. This person's coming in as a manager, so even,
right?
So they're going to be making more, but they are actually bringing more experience than current managers. So even the person been at the county, this person's been in that management role a lot longer than our existing manager.
There's a question that you get into the point is, how do you value one position over a different position? Do you take direct reports, and what pieces of information do you put into the value of the wage of that employee?
Right. And I think we're going to find that with our comp and class study too. Those are questions that need to be answered for all of us. So going forward.
Which we will have a discussion about here in a little bit regarding that. Okay, so I have a motion, and was it Commissioner Potter, did you second?
Correct.
Any other discussions? Then your points are all valid, gentlemen.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, we'll fix the couple typos that were in the minutes too.
Yeah, thank you. I was going to mention that Zerker was spelled incorrectly.
All right, no more discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-1. Commissioner Vetch, you were not at the technology minute
I was not.
meeting, but do you still want to take that?
I mean, I can walk through it to a certain degree. I mean, if Michael wants to work into it some too, basically the more of a status update. We're through the migration of emails in Office 365. I can't even get it out. Is completed. Now moving on to the next portion of opening up the Office 365 features of Skype and other enhanced features of Office 365, which will be kicked off shortly. Once departments have 80% of their department completed, they will be, or the training completed, they will be put into the implementation list based on that completion rate. That was pretty much informational only on the Office 365. ERP update. On March 20th, the county board held a committee of the whole to discuss the ERP. This discussion was approved by the county board meeting on Tuesday, March 27th. This sets forth the motion to begin more of a focused group that will be constructed of members of the different department heads and board members to move forward on this ERP bidding process and contractor searching process. The Friday this week will be the first ERP core team meeting. That was informational only. And I'm going to turn the last one, because that one you guys were more intimately involved with. Either Mark, you want to talk about it, or Michael for the IT project portfolio, since I wasn't there for that piece.
Commissioner Potter, if you don't mind, would you? Because you had brought up some good points.
Just got to remember what they were. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I did sit in for Commissioner Vetch on this, and I tell you, this was very enlightening. And I would suggest that in the future that we maybe rotate on this particular IT project portfolio update, that we rotate this around so other commissioners get a feel of what all is entailed here, because there was a lot of ooh-ah moments in there. There's a lot of things going on, a lot of targets, a lot of things going on, and I do like the interaction within that team on how they're approaching these issues, and stumbling blocks, and while they're getting there and everything else. I mean, it is amazing, and for somebody that's a little bit ignorant on IT issues, it was an eye-opener for a lot of different things, and understanding what they're going through, not only with Britta Holland, but all the rest of them in there. I was totally amazed with the interaction of what is going on. But the short reviewing of the project portfolio glossary, and in terms, and this is just, the queen of acronyms over there can have all kinds of fun with this one.
Yeah.
She'd have a whole new book. It's a separate chapter, separate series, because I was having a hard time. Okay, what does this mean? What does this mean? What does this mean? You'd say they're down to, there's 74 projects on the list, and that's down. Because if we are north of 100 and 120, 130 or something, there was some
about 120 open projects.
Open projects. So under 74, which is, this is the first time they've been under 80 in some time, which is good. And that means things are getting done, but some of them are close to completion, but there's stumbling blocks that keep them from getting done. And other things have to happen first. The Commissioner Dryden went through the website redesign, utilization starting point for discussion, and I'm a little bit ignorant on how this all is playing out, but it definitely is something that I plan to attend more of these meetings to get more accustomed to how this works, because I don't speak IT per se. The public survey has been reviewed with focus on concerns, easier searching, fresh look. I think some of these things, as people get used to what we're doing here, they'll see it. Most of the things in here are just more of the IT centered things, and you can read it online with this. I don't want to go through each one here because I'll butcher the heck out of them but it was just the public address system was there. How do we do this with that? And that was the again, another one it's just one of those that's kind of dangling out there. And then the Everbridge with the code red, the EDMS, the half section maps, and how one thing affects this department and that department. And these are all things that a person like me wouldn't think about. It's like, okay, you're doing this now, it's going to affect that and that. But the IT department and that team has definitely been cause and effect on everything out there, and I'm just amazed with that. The EDMS for the Veteran Service Scanning Project, and we had a lot of discussion on that with getting the vets scanned into the system, and the way they're doing now is the painless one, but it has a cap in an endpoint where you're going to have to migrate somewhere else. So to me, it's rather migrate now versus later. Even though you got a few of them in there, let's just get it so it's create less headache for and a heartache for the IT department later on. Because once that gets to the end where they can't put any more files in there, then we're going to have to be forced that way, which is better to do it right now. The EDMS for the Social Service, Health and Human Service, I wish you all luck on that one, because that is quite an entangled and big project to try to overcome now. And how do you find an answer to all those issues in there? Because you're so many moving targets. It's just, I say the word a week, befuddling, because it's like, wow.
I know.
How do you come to grips with these things? And then the other things, with that, with the health users, the paperless inefficiencies and all it is definitely, like I say, it's hard when you're just come in on one meeting like that to really grasp all this, but as you there, you absorb it, you read, you get to a couple, you'll appreciate what the IT committee, what are y'all doing there, because this county needs to be stepped up on that one. So briefly discuss the Zerker project. This active status report will be requested at the next meeting. And the project relationships to ERP is questioned with Holland Star, distinction exists and can be added and reviewed. Prioritization will be continued next meeting, and that would, again, that goes back to where I think the other commissioners should sit on these from time to time, just because you will get a better idea when the IT comes before us, what they're doing, what they're planning, what they're doing. And the action item there was to continue prioritization of the strategic projects for next meeting, review Zerker and website design. And I apologize for not being real detailed in this, Mr. Chair, but I do want to approve the minutes and the recommendation.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Potter, second by Commissioner Vetch.
I have a question.
Yep.
Yeah, why was there 930 mailboxes if we have like 740 employees?
There's group mailboxes. So like there's like,
okay.
HHS has a mailbox
Okay.
for like just overall information. The sheriff's department has a few different ones. So
Okay.
like there's
All right.
departmental emails.
Okay, yeah, I was just curious.
And just a update regarding the Zerker. This Zerkers, which the sheriff's office is using, came up because our 3 local police stations is going with Zerker, have already paid, but it's on the county end, and we're trying to figure out what it's going to take. But we have to do some changes. It's not a decision we made. It was made for us, so now we're expected to follow through. So we're trying to figure out how much time it's going to take to do this and how we're going to handle it all. So that's why the Zerkers has come up all of a sudden.
And thank you, Mr. Chair, because I did overlook that. That was quite a big discussion on how to integrate that and make that all work.
Yeah, and you know, and it'll be good to have all the local police officers or police departments connected with the county system and all that.
Yes, it will.
It still would have been nicer if they would have done it when we asked up front, when we went with it. So, again, hopefully we'll have a better idea next time. All right, so any other questions, discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. County Coordinator.
Yes, sir, we'd like to schedule a committee of the whole closed session, discuss labor relations strategy. I realize the 17th is a busy day, but I hope we can squeeze in a short meeting at 1 o'clock that day.
So we're gonna get 45 minutes.
Approximately,
Accomplish it in that,
perhaps.
probably.
So the time suggested is the 17th at 1 p.m.
I'm okay with that.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
Unless WCAT canceled, Commissioner Vetch and myself would be at a WCAT meeting at the same time.
No, it's at 2.
It starts at 2.
At what time?
WCAT was at 2, wasn't it? 2 o'clock, yeah. 2. It's at 2.
Okay, so I had it written down as 1. I
Where's in
apologize.
Buffalo?
It's 2, yeah.
Buffalo or Glencoe?
It's in Buffalo.
Why don't we go for noon?
Or
Just change the
12:30?
It's boys and girls.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
So we won't be
So
back
1
until...
o'clock.
And even that's gonna be hard to get back here by 1, because that took us, last year was,
We're usually back by 12:30.
are
I
we
think.
12, by 12:30? Oh. I mean,
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to schedule a committee of the whole closed session on April 17th at 1 o'clock.
You don't want to go 12:30, Mike?
1 o'clock?
12:45?
12:45, shoot the difference, I'll go.
I can't remember what time we got back here.
Well, I think it depended,
Started at 11:30.
I think we start 11:30. I think we're usually done by 12:15 or so.
If we schedule it for 12:30 and we don't get here until 12:40, it's not at the end of the world.
Well,
Right, Lee?
we can...
It's true.
We can strive to get back at 12:30.
I guess.
You make the call, Brian.
Yeah, what do you think?
Well, Mike, and if you're sure you can, 1 o'clock, you can make it out at 2. I mean, you guys have the conflict, not me.
If the rest of them would like me to amend my motion to make it 12:30, I will do that.
12:30 it is.
12:30? I'll second that, Mike.
Motion by Commissioner Potter.
It's so easy.
Just do what Charlie says and nobody gets hurt, right?
Motion by Commissioner Potter, second by Commissioner Burrell. Is there any other discussion regarding a closed session for labor relations strategy on April 11th at 12:30?
April 17th.
April 17th, I'm sorry. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. It is 10:45. Please be brief with any advisory committees updates that you have.
Here, I'll start out. Pleased to report I have nothing to report this week.
Can I start, Mr. Chairman?
No, you can't. You could continue from where Commissioner Potter was, because he started.
Oh, I thought he said he didn't have anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's, he started.
Oh, okay.
Can you be shorter than that?
I didn't have, the only thing I wanted to confirm is Township Officers Association on Thursday at 7 this week.
Southside?
Southside?
Yep.
Incorrect? Okay. That's it.
I'll let you know I won't be there.
You will not?
No.
He has so many townships in his district, you know?
Yeah, no, I actually have an employee meeting that was.
Okay, that's all I have.
Designed before that. Commissioner Hewsome?
All right, yep, I'll just be real brief too. Central Minnesota EMS region met on Friday, and we do have notice from Sherburne County that they are going to requesting withdraw from the Central Minnesota Medical Services region, and they're going to be joining with the Metro. So that they felt that was more in line. So at the end of 2018, Sherburne County will not be with us anymore. And just a couple of reminders, the Wright County Sheriff's Office Citizen Law Enforcement Academy, the deadline to turn your application in is the 13th of April, and you can check online about that. There's also a Buffalo area Dementia Friends invites you to Sweet Moments in the Making, and it's Finding Joy in the Small Moments of Life. Guest speaker is former County Commissioner Carla Heater, and it's going to be Sunday, April 15th at 2 p.m. at Zion Lutheran in Buffalo. And also the third annual Just Drive Day at Monticello Middle School on April 28th from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. If kind of an important thing. And I'll let you talk about the joint ditch meeting we went to.
Okay, is that it?
Yep.
All right, Commissioner Hewsome and I went to a joint ditch meeting. Okay. Down in Glencoe. There were some good discussions.
Yeah, some real good discussions.
So, yeah, there's some updates that will need to be done. They're on the joint agreements, which we have to follow ditch law. There's been a couple of changes in our agreement with the other counties that were involved with the joint ditches. A little out of date, so they're going to look at updating some of that information.
Barbara's talking about joining us. They're not officially part of this, but we have joint ditches.
Yeah. We have a couple, and then a few other ones too. So there'll be more information coming on that. It was a pretty simple process. Matt was there, and Jana. And then, that was down in Glencoe too. So there's a number of counties that are involved in the joint ditches.
Yep.
Meeker, McLeod, Renville, Sibley. So there's a number of, and some of them relate to us, some don't. Mm-hmm. But it's interesting to see how other counties are handling certain things and doing that. One thing I noticed in the paper, Delno basketball won state tournament.
Yes, that's right.
And I failed to mention too, back a few weeks ago, St. Michael was in the finals down at the barn, I believe, for hockey. Didn't make it real far, but they made it down there.
Yep. First
And
time ever for hockey.
Yep. And also, if I remember correctly, at that same time, there was 4 Wright County cities that were actually down there in different sections. If I remember correctly, Monticello was, and I thought Buffalo, and there was Howard Lake?
No, not Howard Lake.
Was it?
But Delano was there.
For hockey?
Oh, not for hockey, no.
No, there was, I thought there was 4, but I can't remember.
Could have been Cokato Litchfield. I think they did well good this year. I didn't follow it that closely.
Anyway, so just.
Maybe the confusion is Orono's in the Wright County Conference, so it kind of gives you the illusion they're part of Wright County.
But anyway, it was impressive. There was a number of Wright County
from the
school districts that made it down into the Final Four, which is great. And congratulations to Delano.
Mr. Chair, I meant to bring this up earlier, but we have a 911 planning committee on April 10th at 1 p.m., but I also have crime lab at the Law Enforcement Center at 2 p.m. So I don't know if we want a alternate to sit in on either the crime lab or
The 9/11 was what time?
1 o'clock.
1 o'clock, right.
I mean, I could be there for the first 50 minutes, but I'm not sure how long, and I wanted to ask Chief Deputy Hoffman,
So
but
with that, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to authorize Commissioner Newsom to use the county helicopter to get from job point A to point B. Let's get that in the paper.
I thought they outlawed that thing where you held
Jetpacks?
the jetpacks, helicopter jetpack.
so,
Oh, that's good.
Well, there might be some people that are on that 911 that also have to be out. Well, maybe not. I don't know.
I don't know, because the sheriff representative, so.
So you're thinking you want, I'll be there, you want to have one of the other board members fill in, or?
Do you remember who the alternate is for the 911 committee?
I don't think we
No, it's-
signed an
it's-
alternate.
it's Derek and me.
Is it?
Oh, I thought I was on it.
Well, maybe you're the
Am I on the
alternate.
911 committee?
No, I was.
Charlie's on the 911, because I wasn't aware that I was on the 911 committee, but
Mary, would you like to be on the 911?
Okay.
Charlie, you're on it, aren't you?
Right.
That's what I thought I was thinking. I didn't
All
think I
right.
was on that committee, but.
So,
It's Charlie and Chris, and Mike is the alternate.
all right, so I will,
So maybe Mike should go too.
You're going
April 10th,
April 10th.
That work for you?
at 1 o'clock?
can 3 of us be there for the first 50 minutes or not?
No, I would
I
say
mean,
If,
you shouldn't.
we've already
Yeah, I
posted
already
it as a
got it.
meeting, so
Oh, did you?
I've already got to put it on there that I'm gonna.
So we can go to other committees? No.
careful.
so,
Brian, if it's an authorized meeting, there's nothing wrong with 3 commissioners being there for a while, is there? Yeah, come on.
yeah, you're,
That's another topic for another day.
Well, it has been posted, like you said.
Yeah, and I've got it written down that I'm on it, but it shows at 1:30. Is that 1 o'clock or 1:30?
1 o'clock.
and, but you're the alternate?
Have you seen the agenda?
No?
It was emailed to you.
Okay, I'll
And
have
it is
to,
in your mailbox.
can you send me a text so I can look at my emails?
No. Which reminds me, have any of you guys stepped up to volunteer to help Charlie go through all the Lydia training sessions so that we can get,
Yeah, migrated first. Yeah, see, I've already completed mine. I was number 1 on getting the
Really?
training done.
Whoa.
Here, attaboy. Feeling better now?
Usually I hire my daughter to do something.
Well, this one, you can't hire your daughter to do the training.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Mr. Chair, I have nothing to report. It was a slow week last week for me, so. All right.
Okay. Commissioner, well, I don't know why I keep calling you Commissioner. Coordinator Kelly, do you have anything that you would like to add?
A couple quick updates. Had a conference call yesterday regarding the joint powers agreement between Benton, Sherburne, Stearns, and Wright for the SEDS district they're working on. So the county attorneys of the respective counties are working on putting that together. That will be coming forward probably on the 17th board meeting. Some of the other counties we're going to sign first. We will need to appoint 2 representatives onto that committee. It sounds like a lot of the others are going to use their commissioners. Secondly, there was a meeting that took place with the city of Buffalo regarding the stormwater pond parcel. They have some requirements relative to annexation. which we're not interested in doing, so they're working out a joint powers agreement to allow us to run the stormwater pond on that, but to the courts facility area. So, and just lastly, I'd like to send out my condolences to the family of Mark Nolan, who was a county employee for several years, passed away last week. So,
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that.
Passed away?
51.
One other quick thing, Attorney Allison, could you come up here for just a second? I was just curious if you've heard any inklings at all regarding the Supreme Court with our county or state auditor?
Mr. Chair?
Zero?
Zero.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Nothing.
That's a quick report.
Which is not unusual. The Supreme Court, you know, when we have cases argued to the district court judges up here, there's a 90-day period for them to rule. Supreme Court is not subject to those same rules.
Okay, how long has it been? It's been 90
I was
days
argued just after the first of the year. So
Okay.
I want to say
All
January
right.
3rd or 4th.
Okay, so, yeah, almost 90 days then. So maybe we'll get lucky. Has anybody heard anything regarding reimbursement at all from the state legislators at all or anything?
That,
I have not.
And Mr. Chair, just another note on that. We did get a letter from, so we also submitted an application to what's called the Legislative Committee on Claims. It's a body that's made up of Senate and House members that meets annually. Might be something as small as somebody who was in prison that said their leather jacket got lost when they were in prison for 2 years. We submitted a claim along with Becker County. They deferred on it the first year because of the bills that were out there. This year, we got a letter saying that their rules do not allow them to deal with it until we have that Supreme Court decision, a final decision. So they're kind of kicking the can down the road a bit, but we will keep submitting the claim.
So in other words, there still is an opportunity for the county to recoup our expenses for this whole deal. Okay, that's a good thing anyway. All right. Hearing nothing else, we are adjourned at 10:58.